This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(6:15). This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. The Prime Minister requests to work for the benefit of the country. 500 villages will be developed as Saubhagya production villages. Purchasing paddy in the Yalla season commences. 45,000 electricians get vocational training. The operation to find debris on the seabed following the Express Pearl ship accident will end tomorrow. In news overseas, India puts pressure on EU for vaccine pass approval. In sports news, the second one-day international between Sri Lanka and England is underway at the Oval. Local stories in detail. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that work will be performed amid difficulties with confidence that the country will one day get the benefits. The Prime Minister mentioned this while attending the inauguration ceremony today from the temple trees to develop 500 villages in the country as Saubhagya production villages. The Prime Minister unveiled the digital plaque declaring villages in Nura Elia, Mandaram Nura, Peradeniya, Uda Iria Golla and Jaffna, Sandilippai, Pirankatru as Saubhagya production villages. Saubhagya Senehase Navatana houses built at Kurunagala, Ganevatta, Kumbugata village and Mirigama, Keenadeniya village were handed over to the recipients. A Saubhagya Samurdhi week has been declared from today to the 7th of this month. The Ratnapura district inauguration of Saubhagya production villages program commenced today from Godavela, Mavatalanda, Horaipola village. The program is implemented on a concept of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The State Ministry of Microfinance, Self-Employment and Business Development is leading the program. The aim is to develop the gold industry in the village. 5.5 million rupees will be spent to purchase personal and common equipment of goldsmiths in the village. The Kagala district program commenced at Molagoda clay production village. Purchasing paddy in the Yalla season has commenced. Deputy Chairman of the Paddy Marketing Board, Duminda Priyadarshana, said that stores at 19 districts have been prepared to purchase paddy. Harvesting of paddy will commence from Batiklo, Mullaitivu and Kilinochchi districts. The Sri Lanka Public Utility Commission has signed an MOU with U-Lead Entrepreneurship Project of the USAID. 45,000 electricians are scheduled to be given vocational training under the project. An electrician will be awarded a Level 3 National Vocational Qualification Certificate following training. Chairman of the Commission, Janaka Ratnayaka, said it will enhance the professional level of electricians. Public Utility Commission will lead in training and conducting training workshops in 25 districts with the signing of the MOU. The operation to find container parts and other debris on the seabed following the Express Pearl ship accident will end tomorrow. An Indian Navy ship is scanning the seabed. Director General of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, Susantha Kahawatta, said that thereafter the company owning the ship and the company which is looking after the ship at present will be informed to remove the debris. The ban imposed on fishing in the sea area is continuing. An Assistant General Manager attached to the Sea Consortium Lanka Private Limited, the local agent of Express Pearl vessel, was today ordered to be released on bail after being produced before Colombo High Court. Assistant General Manager of the Sea Consortium Lanka Private Limited, Sanjeeva Samaranayaka, was named as the 5th suspect in the case filed over fire-ravaged container ship. The suspect was ordered to be released on 2 sureties of 1 million rupees each by the High Court. The passport of the suspect was ordered to be kept under court custody. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
Continuing with the local stories, 2,000 three-wheelers have been given to Sri Lanka Police, strengthening community police concept. The token handover of three-wheelers took place today at the Temple Trees under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. They will be distributed among the police stations in the country. The government has spent 829 million rupees to import three-wheelers duty-free. MP Samanpriya Herath says that use of organic fertilizer is honouring a pledge in the Vistas of Prosperity policy statement. He said that the government annually spends 400 billion rupees for agrochemicals and chemical fertilizer. He pointed out that there are about 150,000 kidney patients in the country and toxic food has contributed to the illness. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said Batticaloa Airport is to be developed as an attractive domestic airport with more facilities. Addressing the media after an inspection tour at Batticaloa Airport, he said the airport was built in 1958 under the Civil Service Department and later handed over to the Sri Lankan Air Force in 1983. The runway of the airport was developed and operated as a domestic airport in 2012. The Environment Ministry Secretary Dr. Anil Jasinga said Central Environmental Authority will file a case against those responsible for the environmental damage caused to the Loggala Oya forest. He said that action was taken in response to the recent disclosure of facts by the media regarding the environmental destruction which took place around Loggala Oya. Dr. Jasinga said that he deployed the CEA, Mahavali Authority and the Gramaniladaris to look into the matter. Deputy Director General of Health Ministry Dr. Hemantha Herath says that more attention should be paid for fever in the wake of corona pandemic. He said that all heads of institutions should pay attention on employees who are having fever symptoms. To end the local news, the headlines again. The Prime Minister requests to work for the benefit of the country. 500 villages will be developed as Saubhagya production villages. Purchasing paddy in the yellow season commences. 45,000 electricians get vocational training. The operation to find debris on the seabed following the Express Pearl ship accident will end tomorrow. That ends local news.
The largest bonus declared in the history of the Sri Lankan insurance industry. Sri Lanka Insurance Grand Bonus. An unmatchable bonus of 8.6 billion rupees only for Sri Lanka Insurance life policy holders from the nation's largest insurer. Call 0112 357 357 for more details. Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
On the main news story, Director of the Consumer Affairs Authority, Asela Bandara, says that permission has not been given to increase gas prices. He said that certain traders tried to hide gas cylinders anticipating a price hike. He said that raids were conducted to find such traders recently. He requested the public to inform the Consumer Affairs Authority if gas is sold at higher prices. That ends the main news story.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya. The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. The revised tax policy on postal shipments to countries under the European Union will come into effect from today. Postmaster General Ranjit Ariratne said the new tax policy will apply to all postal items except letters addressed to 26 EU countries. The tax policy applies to postal consumers, online retailers and online merchandise of postal goods to EU countries. That ends Watchlight. Moving on to the world news, the headlines. India puts pressure on EU for vaccine pass approval. Indonesia announces lockdown in Java and Bali as COVID cases surge. Thailand welcomes first international tourists. India will not recognize EU vaccine pass for travellers unless the bloc does the same for India's own vaccine certificate. The move comes amid reports that the India-made Covishield is not yet eligible for EU's digital green certificate set to launch today. The certificate is currently for EU citizens only. Covishield is the Indian-made version of AstraZeneca's Vaxzevria jab, which has been authorized in the EU. Indonesia has announced a lockdown on its main island Java as well as the tourism destination of Bali. The announcement by President Joko Widodo comes as the country battles multiple outbreaks and an alarming spike in COVID cases. Indonesia recently recorded 2 million COVID cases attributed to increased holiday travel and the Delta variant. The lockdown will last 2 weeks and aims to reduce the number of cases to below 10,000 a day. Thailand has welcomed its first quarantine-free tourist back to the island of Phuket as the country tries to reboot its tourism industry. About 250 people, mainly from the Middle East, were expected to arrive on 4 flights today as part of the Phuket Sandbox scheme. None of the arrivals need to quarantine, but they cannot travel to the mainland within 14 days. It is hoped the scheme will bring in $278 million in the next 3 months. To end the world news, the headlines again. India puts pressure on EU for vaccine pass approval. Indonesia announces lockdown in Java and Bali as COVID cases surge. Thailand welcomes first international tourists. That ends the world news. On development news, the Fisheries Minister has launched a program on encourage the fisheries community to take to aquaculture in shallow seawaters and in lagoons, where all members of the fisheries families could participate in livelihood empowerment. The program includes the cultivation of shrimps, crabs, sea cucumber, prawns and oysters. Moving on to sports news. The second one-day international between Sri Lanka and England is underway at the Oval. England won the toss and chose to field. Sri Lanka was 18 for 3 wickets, 5.2 overs a short while ago. World 400-meter champion Salwa Eid Nasser will miss the Tokyo Olympics after being banned for 2 years for breaching anti-doping rules. The 23-year-old Bahraini was sanctioned after missing out of competition tests. Caster Semenya failed in her latest attempt to achieve the Olympic qualifying time for the 5,000 meters. The South African was fourth in running 15:50.12 in Belgium as she failed to make the 15:10 qualifying mark. A boxer who missed out on Olympic qualification because she was pregnant has won one of her biggest fights to compete at this summer's Tokyo Games. Mandy Bujold, an 11-time Canadian champion, will be in Japan after the Court of Arbitration for Sport ruled in her favor. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Colombo Stock Exchange and CHEC Port City Colombo signed a memorandum of understanding to enhance the capital markets in Sri Lanka by taking advantage of the Port City Colombo's special emphasis of the Colombo International Financial Centre in order to establish a regionally recognized financial exchange within the country's borders. The MOU was signed with the objective of working on a collective mission to establish an international multi-currency exchange within the Port City Colombo. That ends Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
On economic news, headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index increased to 5.2% in June 2021 from 4.5% in May 2021. This was driven by monthly increases of prices of items in both food and non-food categories. Accordingly, food inflation increased to 11.3% in June 2021 from 9.9% in May 2021, while non-food inflation increased to 2.5% in June 2021 from 2.2% in May 2021. That ends economic news.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasir, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, on the weather report, the Met Department says showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, northwestern and southern provinces and in Kandy and Nuwara Eliya districts. Fairly heavy showers, about 75 millimeters, can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa and southern provinces and in the Nuwara Eliya district. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva and eastern provinces in the evening or at night. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasir, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to end this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The Prime Minister requests to work for the benefit of the country. 500 villages will be developed as Saubhagya production villages. Purchasing paddy in the Yalla season commences. 45,000 electricians get vocational training. The operation to find debris on the seabed following the Express Pearl ship accident will end tomorrow. In news overseas, India puts pressure on EU for vaccine pass approval. In sports news, the second one-day international between Sri Lanka and England is underway at the Oval. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.